The day most of us have been waiting for has finally arrived. You see all these draft guides, these things right here. The Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers have made everybody have to throw theirs away. From this standpoint, the Miami Dolphins pulled off a blockbuster trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers, trading Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a swap of a 7th and a 5th round pick. Oh, and it just so happens to include Pro Bowl safety Minka Fitzpatrick, who is making his return to the Miami Dolphins, a team that he demanded a trade from in his second season. Now Minka's coming back. You're watching Dolphins in Depth. I am Omar Kelly, Miami Herald columnist. Joining me is Isaiah Smalls, Miami Herald Dolphins beat writer. Isaiah, make this trade make sense for me.
I mean, it's rather easy, right? You had Jalen Ramsey, a guy who kind of seemingly fallen out of favor with McDaniel, right? You had Jonnu Smith, who wanted a new contract. The Dolphins obviously weren't willing to budge with that. So you send them away. The Steelers obviously were the team that seemed to be most interested in Jonnu, specifically their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who spent some time with Jonnu, I believe, during Jonnu's definitely in Atlanta, but specifically during his most productive season as a Titan, he was there as well. And so I think the more surprising thing, the thing that I don't think anyone saw coming, was Minka Fitzpatrick, returning to Miami. That was the one that, people started to, kind of tip their hat a little bit to Greer in that regard. But it's a very, one of those days in Dolphins history that's just like, it's mind blowing, because
this is a big day in Dolphins.
It's a big day because just the way that it trickled in, and obviously, this is probably the biggest trade that I've been a part of since I've started working the beat. And so
might be the biggest trade that I've ever been a part of in my career, 17 years.
There we go.
Because it involves 3 Pro Bowlers.
3 Pro Bowlers, right? And so it'll be very interesting. I think what I'm most looking forward to is seeing how defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver uses Minka Fitzpatrick, because as I wrote in a previous story, one of the things that sets Weaver apart is that he loves these guys that have positional versatility, right?
Is it really him, or is it the scheme? Because
the scheme. It's a scheme. The scheme, It's him. It's his scheme. So what do you?
No, it's not his scheme.
I mean, he brought the scheme.
He brought it here. He borrowed it.
That's what I'm saying.
He's borrowing it.
That's fine. He's the one that's putting it together right now. And so I one of the things I look back at, how we talked about Jalen Ramsey, right? One of the things that he loved about Jalen Ramsey, just in general about great players, is that he likes to have his best players near the ball, right? And whether that's blitzing the quarterback, whether that's something that he said. He likes to have.
Okay, that's an excellent point. Yeah. However, Minka Fitzpatrick's beef with the Miami Dolphins is they wanted him as the safety near the ball. He wanted to be the safety in the back end at free safety.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm saying. That's why it's going to be very interesting to see how Weaver is going to utilize him, right? Because obviously Weaver, Flores, 2 very different personalities, right? And so there might be a way that Weaver can kind of sell it a little bit better than Flores did it. Who knows? But
I don't know if Minka at his age, which is he is 28 right now. He's going to be 29 in November.
Yes.
I don't know at his age if he is going to want to be as close to the ball. I think the value for Minka from my standpoint was Jalen Ramsey's gone. Now there's no leadership in the secondary room. Yeah. It's the blind leading the blind. No offense to Ashton Davis and Ife Melifonwu and Cater Cole. No offense, but none of y'all ain't done nothing in the league. And now you have a guy who's coming here, perennial, I believe, 6-time Pro Bowler, 20 interceptions, 10 forced fumbles and fumble recoveries. That's 30 impact plays. Way more impactful than Javon Holland. What I do find interesting about this, and this is a story I'll tell you, story time.
Okay.
I love this story because it really personifies what's been going on with the Dolphins over the years and what the issues are, and the issues that Steve Ross has worked very hard to avoid. This is a story I have confirmed, triple confirmed, verified, spoken to all parties. Everything is confirmed. Okay. 2018, first round of the draft. The Dolphins have the 11th pick. Dolphins have had the Jones for Minka Fitzpatrick the entire draft season. Chris Greer loves him, thinks he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowl player, thinks he's going to be one of the best players at his position for a decade. Has to happen. Okay? Now, Mike Tannenbaum, who was technically running the organization, he wanted something else. He wanted to do something else. Adam Gase actually wanted a quarterback, not Lamar Jackson. Any quarterback, not Lamar Jackson, and wanted the Dolphins to get in position. They wanted that year, he wanted 2 quarterbacks because he knew he couldn't get Baker Mayfield, who he loved, Mr. Josh Allen. And then there's another one. I think it's Sam Darnold. It's like a little murky whether or not it's Sam Darnold or it was somebody else. I can't remember. But it definitely wasn't Lamar Jackson. Now, they had a trade offer on the table. A trade offer that Adam Gase and Mike Tannenbaum are fighting so much about that they actually have to leave the draft room because it's smelling like dysfunction in there. And they're on the clock. They have to leave the draft room to figure out what they're going to do because the trade is so enticing. But the trade takes them back into the 20s. And owner Steve Ross says, well, if we're going to be back here, why don't we just get Lamar Jackson? And everybody basically ignores the owner because everybody knows Adam Gase does not want to coach Lamar Jackson. He does not believe in Lamar Jackson, does not want to coach him, does not want a quarterback that Adam Gase wants to play Xbox with his quarterback and have his quarterback do exactly what he says. Anyway, that's my opinion. Okay. So, but the owner says, we can get Lamar Jackson. Everybody's like, man, shut up, Steve. You don't know nothing. They really didn't say shut up, Steve, but that was the tone.
Yeah.
They're fighting so much that eventually Chris Greer, who is the peacekeeper, who is not a fighter, says, listen, I am in charge of the draft. This is the one thing that I am the HNIC for. All of y'all are going to do what I want to do, and I want to take Minka Fitzpatrick.
Wow.
Conversation over.
Wow. That's a good little piece of lore. So you're telling me the Dolphins could have almost landed Lamar Jackson.
They got jumped for Buffalo. They got jumped by Buffalo for Josh Allen. Which probably would have been the pick if Buffalo had not jumped.
Buffalo hadn't jumped them. Interesting.
And the owner did indeed want to go down for Lamar Jackson.
Wow.
And everybody was just like, go on, Steve. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And this is Dolphins history. Then a year later, Minkah and Brian Flores, Minkah does not like tanking, does not like the culture of the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Does not really have that many friends in the locker room.
Yeah.
Is not playing at the position that he likes.
Yeah.
Because Brian Flores wanted Bobby McCain to play free safety.
Yes.
And Minkah tells his agent, get me out of here after 2 games. And on a Sunday, after a game, Minkah gets dealt for 18th pick, which turns out to be Austin Jackson.
Interesting.
And now, 6 years later, Chris Greer finally gets back his guy.
Yeah, that's a good story. That's a very good story. I think we'll have to see how it plays out. I saw also that Tua and Minkah are friends, or at least close.
They used to be close. I don't know if they're still close.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that Tua used to be close with, but you know how it is. You know, that's my homie.
That's how friendship works, especially as you get older as an adult. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, that was my guy then, and We grow up, stuff changes. But I think I like this move because it doesn't. I remember us talking about if the Dolphins, traded away Jonah. I keep saying Jonnu Smith. That to me, I think it was to both of us. It's a sign of tanking. So the question I want to ask you: do you still feel that way post trade?
If this trade had been for a Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith for a 4th and a 5th round pick in whatever, because they did get a 5th for a 7th, which is basically nothing. Not the 5th. The 5th is something. The 7th is nothing.
Yeah, of course.
If it was for a 4th round pick in 2026, and a 5th round pick in 2027, I would have said, let the tank begin. I would have said, what other pieces are we selling? How much can we get for Zach Sealer? Let's figure out if a team wants Devon Achane. That would be my line of thinking. Yeah. But you got rid of Jalen Ramsey, and I shouldn't say got rid of because it's disrespectful. You moved Jalen Ramsey, who is still an elite player. Pittsburgh showed you he's still an elite player by actually giving him a raise. Yeah, of course. I don't think they're done yet because Jalen is always shaking down people, which is part of the Dolphins' issue, trauma. Jalen Ramsey, and I love him. I don't have a problem with him. No, I know who he is. But Jalen Ramsey is a bully. And he's spent the last 2 years bullying the Dolphins. And they got tired of it.
Absolutely.
And, Mike put his foot down. And Jalen is now gone. And Jalen is now in an organization and a culture that can handle Jalen Ramsey because you're not about to bully Mike Tomlin. Heck no. And they're also an organization that is going clearly all in.
Yes, they're very clearly pushing all the chips to the middle, trying to see it. They're all in on the Aaron Rodgers experience,
Yeah. And wait, listen, I don't blame them.
Oh no,
the way Aaron Rodgers sliced and diced the Dolphins and the 2 times he played Miami, shoo.
That's what I said. I have a few friends who are Steelers fans, and I said, as long as you get Week 18, Aaron Rodgers, you should be fine.
Not just Week 18 when he played them the first time.
No, that's real. He
carved them up.
That's real. He did.
He carved Jalen Ramsey up.
He did carve Jalen Ramsey up. Yes.
So I would have thought it was tanking. But now that you have acquired a Pro Bowl player, now if you package and ship Minka Fitzpatrick, then I'll be like, wait.
It's like what is it? Who was it? Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers when he never played, or what was it? Melo to the Trailblazers when he never, or Melo to the Hawks. How there's an infamous Melo to the Hawks jersey. You don't remember this? Where Melo got traded to the Hawks and immediately rerouted somewhere else. So there's
and that could happen until we hear from Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I don't know, but understand this is business season. Minka is under contract for 2 more years. Minka has let me bring it up for you for the people. So because they generally Minka is under contract with no guaranteed money. And when a player has no guaranteed money, in his mind, he does not have a contract, especially a player of his caliber. He's under contract for $15,500,000 this season, which is a relatively good price for a safety. And in 2026, he's under contract for 17.6. All of those are good money deals for a safety. But you know what they do not include, Isaiah?
Guaranteed money.
Guaranteed money. Minka right now tears an ACL, training in the offseason. The Dolphins can cut him, release him, not owe him $1.
Sheesh.
And when you're a veteran player, especially a high caliber veteran player, a Pro Bowl veteran player, that ain't gonna work. So more than likely, and I don't know when or how or what the timetable is, more than likely you're going to look to see that $15 million and that $17 million turn into guaranteed money. get a nice little Steve Ross stimulus pack in terms of a signing bonus. And then the cap numbers go down. Then Minkah has his guaranteed money. Then the Dolphins can make the contract. He's probably still going to want to be paid like a top 5 safety. And this is easier to digest than, especially since he's young and still kind of training up. It was a Pro Bowl season last year, as opposed to being shaken down by Jalen Ramsey every year. And Minkah does not have the Jalen Ramsey personality. Now, for Jonnu, let's just say the Dolphins had a respectable, nice, admirable size contract on the table, but Pittsburgh had $12 million on the table. I was
about to say it wasn't $12 million. It was not $12 million.
And, Isaiah, are you going to take $9 million from the Herald when Pittsburgh Steelers has $12 million on the table?
Respectfully, no. Especially if it means reuniting with an OC who
believes in me.
Yeah, believes in you. And not to say McDaniel and them didn't, because as much as he
thought the personal, ball, it's business.
Yeah, it's not personal. It's just business for sure.
This is what Dolphin fans have to understand. We are officially in business season. This is business time.
That's real.
Football, nobody cares about it. Yeah. This is where is my money.
That's fair.
That's the season now. When we open up training camp, we got 4 weeks where we can pretend it's about football, but really, that's still where is my money.
That's real.
Then when we get to the regular season, we can have kickoff September 9th or whatever.
Yeah.
That's when it's about football. Yeah. But let you have not paid me my money. Like, we going to act like Javon Holland all season.
That's real.
Where it is what it is.
Yeah, that's real.
So that's the situation where Zach Sealer's in right now. You need Zach Sealer to be the good steward of your locker room. Zach's like, where is my money?
Man.
So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. But the Dolphins, they do get rid of, well, that's not fair. They traded away 2 Pro Bowlers, 4-1, and a 5th-round pick. Congratulations to the Miami Dolphins. Congratulations to Chris Greer for actually getting his safety back.
Yeah, no, that's real. I think that you cannot. I think the biggest thing that we talked about when we were talking about the Jalen Ramsey trade specifically is that we're not getting back a player. Like the Dolphins were not getting back a player. That was a constant theme, and it was unfortunate. Maybe when Jair was still signed to the Green Bay, maybe you can, but it was still a long shot to get a player. I think the ability that he had, that Chris Greer had, you kind of got to tip your hat. I mean, of course, you lose Jonnu, but and I think that's that to me, I think is now the next hurdle that they have to kind of climb over. What they're going to do at tight end, because you look at that room. I did something. There's not a player in that room who has all 3 of these things. That caught at least 15 balls, had more than 100 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Those are 3.
Doesn't have 100-yard receiving.
He had
and a touchdown.
He had a 100-yard receiving. He did.
But I don't think he scored a touchdown this week.
He did not score a touchdown, and he caught 12 balls.
Hold on. What about Mr. Farrell Brown, the slowest tight end?
Farrell Brown had like 60 yards. He did not score a touchdown, and he might have had a handful of catches. Like, definitely not 15.
Okay. May I say to you, in regards to your tight end crisis here that you're having, John Embry's probably your best coach on your team. Position coach.
Yeah.
I really can't think of anybody who's a better position coach than John Embry, who's got 2 or 3 Hall of Famers on his resume.
Yeah.
I think he's got 5 Pro Bowlers on his resume, including Jonnu. I think he'd be all right. Now, one of the players that I will tell you, do not sleep on. And I'm guilty of this, and you will hear it in this interview, because he is a OTA and training camp killer. He is carving you up when he's wearing pajamas. Now, the question is, can Tanner Connor translate the pajama play to when the pads come on? Had the opportunity to work with the first team because of Jonnu's absence. How much do you think that that's helped you in terms of your development?
It helped me a lot. I mean, this was a similar situation to last year when Jonnu had an injury and I worked with the first team. And for me, it's great. I get more chemistry with Tua and just with the snap count and the speed of the ones versus the twos and the threes. And so it helps me a lot. I mean, I'm super confident this year regardless of where I'm at, but this is my fourth year here. I've been in the system a long time. I understand it. So being able to run with the ones, it feels right at home for me.
So do you feel like you've got a complete mastery of the playbook?
I have not a complete mastery. I probably can't play running back for us, but in terms of knowing the route concepts and knowing the depths and the landmarks of both tight end, receiver, and running back, I'm getting pretty close, which I can pride myself on. I go home and I study and I write down the entire script every day and just try to get the details out, because at the end of the day, you never know what's going to happen. And with my background, I've played receiver before, and so if there was ever a time we needed somebody, at least I know the playbook. I can go out there and execute it. So.
Now, what did you do to get the orange jersey?
I had a pretty active day Friday. You guys weren't here. I've been pretty consistent the whole camp, but Friday I had a big day. Or was that Thursday? Thursday, Friday, whatever day.
Thursday. You don't work Friday.
Yeah, I mean the previous one we did, but I had a pretty active day that day. Just
What's active?
Just being active in the pass game, catching a lot. Just being in the right spot at the right time and catching a lot of balls. So.
You've always been impressive during OTAs and training camp. What is it going to take for this to transition to the regular season?
Yeah, because according to some people, I disappeared during training camp, right?
No, you disappeared during the regular season. Pads come on.
Yeah, the pads come on. I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's the physicality. I think I'm actually more physical of a person when the pads do come on. But I think there's something where you get to training camp and sometimes the situation changes within your own room, that some reps go different guys. Sometimes you don't get the looks. Sometimes the defense is dominating the offense and you might be open or you're not gonna get the ball. I mean, today I didn't get a single one. I got one target today, so versus last practice I had like 5. So you can't always control when you get the ball, and so sometimes it looks like you're not super active if you're not watching the film. And so it's been really unfortunate. I'd love to have those big days like some guys have in training camp, and just hasn't been there yet, but just gonna keep grinding and do my thing. So.
Have you put on weight, muscle strength, or what is?
This is the heaviest I've been, 240. So come a long way. Still feel really fast. I feel a lot stronger in the run game. I feel more stout, which is really nice. But I'm just trying to find that happy medium where I want to be an effective tight end. I don't want to just be a pass catching tight end. And so just doing things like that, just putting on weight in the offseason, it's been good. I feel the difference. I feel a little bit heavier, but I still feel powerful and strong.
Gotcha. I will say this, Isaiah. John Embry, as we addressed earlier, does an excellent job in terms of coaching his unit, coaching his room.
Of course.
Keep in mind, Tanner Conner started before Jonnu Smith did. Tanner Conner actually started the Seattle game when Jonnu was struggling to learn the playbook.
Okay, how'd he do?
He didn't do good. Okay. But then Skyler was also his quarterback.
Okay.
So that was I think it was his first NFL start.
I think so too.
But it was earned, not given.
Of course.
Now, is he Jonnu Smith athletically? No, he's not. Is he Jonnu Smith in terms of body of work collectively? No, he's not. Is he Jonnu Smith as a blocker? Maybe he is. Maybe he's better. But I can tell you from a pass catching, route running, understanding of the offense, because Tanner Conner understands the offense better than Jonnu Smith does. That's why he played. Now, last year he suffered an injury and then another season wasted. But keep in mind, this organization is invested. This is the third season they're investing in an undrafted player. And the same could be said for Julian Hill. Entering it's a fourth season they're investing in an undrafted player. This is just as Julian Hill's third season. And as you know, because you're there in the meetings and you talk to the coaches, they love Julian Hill.
They do.
Now, whether that means he's going to blossom and turn the corner, I have absolutely no idea. But Tom Pelissero put out a report that the Dolphins are actively shopping for a tight end right now. When it's a Pelissero report, I know where it's coming from. And that's an announcement that, hey, tight ends, agents with tight ends who potentially are unhappy with their situation, holla at us. Mm-hmm. Michael Mayer, a former, I believe, second-round draft pick with the Oakland Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders. He has been on the trade block for a while. The Dolphins have explored it, looked at it.
Mhm.
The question is, will they find the motivation to pull the trigger on a trade like that? And you actually mentioned a former tight end from University of Florida, who the Dolphins actually considered drafting over Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I mean Kyle Pitts. He's on the last year of his deal. To me, like when I saw the report from Pelissero, I thought of two names. Like I didn't even think of much. I thought of Kyle Pitts and I thought of Dallas Goedert. Two guys that are on the last year of their deals. That I'm sure potentially want some big money. But I think the thing with Pitts though is the production hasn't necessarily been there, right? So there is some way for obviously the skill levels. He was top 5 pick, right? So
Yeah,
there's
some level before the injury.
Yeah, skill level before the injury was certainly there. Now, if the Dolphins seem to have a penchant for taking in guys that they believe haven't been solely maximized at previous stops in their career, specifically if you want to talk about guys who have been injured too, and whether you like it or not, that is for me as someone that is coming into the organization, like this, they have a penchant for taking guys that have injured, that have definitely.
They like David Ans. It's cheaper.
Exactly.
But is he cheap? That's the question.
I think that's the question that will be heavily debated on. I because what is it? They didn't want to give Jonnu $12 million. I definitely think you can get him way below that. I think you can get him way below 9 a year. But we'll see. You don't think so? I think he's making 9 a year right now.
No, because he's on his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
The problem with that situation and scenario is this. If I want him, I could just wait a year and get him in free agency for nothing. Same thing with Dallas Goedert.
No, that's fair.
I love. And he's up there in years. This is clearly an organization who is going towards a youth movement. Younger, cheaper, truthfully, stupider. That's just what they're doing and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
We want guys who we can help you make a name for yourself and you can have some loyalty to us. That's what they're looking for. And that's just not Goddard. That's not it's more Mayer, but the question and issue there is he's got some on-field and off-field issues that you got to really look into and dive deep into, which is why, because he's a talented player. Obviously, he's been displaced by their Pro Bowler, but he's a talented young player. The question is Miami the right situation or environment for him? And I don't have an answer to that. There are some other options that are on the table. I won't mention them now because that would tip off everybody else. But obviously, now we get rid of Jalen Ramsey and you acquire Minka Fitzpatrick. How do you think that this impacts the secondary? How does it impact Ash Davis? How does it impact Ife Melifonwu? How does it impact Elijah Campbell?
I think, well, from Weaver's perspective, he's definitely a big fan of those 3 guys, right? They all actively got some run with a team that looked good. I will say that. I'm not going to be specific about that, but they individually got run with a group that looked good.
They rotated. They rotated. The units that matter.
And so, obviously Minkah comes in now as the big dog in that room, right? So one of those 2 safeties, Ashton Davis or Ife, who both came to the Dolphins with the intent of trying to maximize their careers, right? With the intent of trying to come in as a starter. Well,
they both came here to be starters.
Exactly. Well, that opportunity kind of got slashed a little bit, kind of got cut in half because now there's
one of them still has an opportunity to be a starter.
That's what I'm saying. The opportunity got cut in half. There's now one open slot. And
the one thing I will say about Ife Melifonwu is, and I learned this from Dan Campbell, is he's effective and can play the slot. He's very good at the slot. He looks like a praying mantis because he's got long arms, long legs.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and I'm just saying possibility, that Anthony Weaver could use him in a star position, in a star role. And that's the guy that moves around. You have Minkah as a free safety because I promise you Minkah's going to play free safety.
That's
The last time he left, it was because you wouldn't let him play free safety.
Yeah.
I promise you he going to be playing free safety.
Yeah, that's real.
Ashton Davis is probably best suited for strong safety. Iffy probably could play your star and serve as your nickel, and that would open up the door for you to push or move Kader Kohou to the boundary. Now, we all are more comfortable with Kader at nickel, but does that mean that he can't play on the boundary? If you're Kader Kohou and you're his agent, David Canner, you probably want him on the boundary. You know why? Boundary makes more money.
More money.
So
there.
now, if you struggle on the boundary, then it could be you can roll snake eyes.
Yeah,
So
that's
something that we'll be watching in camp, especially if he can play the nickel.
Definitely.
Or he's certainly going to be the backup nickel. Kader goes on the boundary. Maybe he goes on the nickel in certain packages. It gives Anthony Weaver a little bit more to work with, but he's still got to figure out what's on the other side in terms of Kendall Sherfield, Storm Doug, Cam Smith, Isaiah Johnson, Ethan Bonner. You still got to figure that out. But that's a lot of maybes. If you've been hands and spades. That's a lot of queens and low 7 spade. It's a lot of possibles.
A lot of possibles.
It might get you a book, but
yeah. You shouldn't bet. You shouldn't. Don't overbid now. Do not overbid.
And who's to say the Dolphins are done? Maybe they get a deal done for tight end. Maybe they get a deal done for a cornerback. We shall see. But obviously, this is the first major offseason move that the Dolphins have made, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Welcome back to South Florida, Minkah, and his mother, who I'm sure will be watching. On that note, this has been Dolphins in Depth, the podcast by the Miami Herald. I am Omar Kelly. This is Isaiah Smalls, and we are out.